technology to us is only a mean to an end. Our end goal is how do we best serve our citizens and residents, making sure that they have the best ever experiences in the United Arab Emirates and more specifically in Dubai. It's not enough to digitize the government. We need the entire health sector, public and private. We need the education sector. We need the banking, the financials, the retailers. All of the city needs to digitize in order to serve its citizen better. From digital government services, wherein a lot of great transformation we've seen and how government have advanced and started to compete with the private sector in the way that it's offering its services, to a holistic digital city experience. Those experiences is bringing closer public and private sector together, driving these experiences in the entire city of Dubai. Moving from a very traditional way of managing and collecting data, which is known to be centralized, in a way that we are going, and it used to be to a supply-driven way, that let's collect the data and let's try to analyze it, towards more wise way of how do we manage city assets within the digitizations, which is decentralized, putting the right governance around it and having it demand-led. So being more sustainable in the way that we are feeding this digital transformation by data. From government, say, cyber resilience into citywide cyber resilience, but most importantly, to be proactive. This proactiveness is creating the shield that we want and protecting our digital asset. From digital government performance indicators, those indicators are key and how brought this excellence to such a level. But that is not enough. We are moving towards comparing ourselves internationally and rank best globally and using the best practices that are known in this industry globally and compare ourselves with other cities and other countries.
The pathway that I mentioned of creating innovation from idea to commercialization, again, those three organizations, Aspire, TI, and Venture One. Aspire's role is to go talk with the 6 priority sectors, talk to the ecosystems, understand the roadmaps, understand the challenges and the pain points, also understand where innovation may be able to be injected to accelerate the roadmaps. After talking with the 6 priority sectors, then Aspire comes back to TII, and they bring those problems or opportunities to TII. TII then creates solutions to those through about TRL 5 or 6. So the goal here is to create a proof of concept demonstration for these sectors. Once the proof of concept demonstration is accepted by the sector, then we look for a commercialization partner. This then helps create that ecosystem that ATRC was put in place to create. Because right now there's not a big commercial enterprise in the UAE to work on these kinds of problems. The idea is to encourage other countries to bring their solutions here to set up operations in the UAE and to form this ecosystem of innovation that's so important.
The danger here, and I take a segue a little bit of ChatGPT and language models, is that they're believable. And because they're believable, the privacy issues matters in there, because the more information they have about you, it allows that language to pose to you as a trusted agent. It says things and it, and interacts with you in a proper way that you may actually feel comfortable sharing even more private information. And that's something that we need to be kind of careful about. But I go back and I say, to gather statistical accuracy about a phenomenon, if you're interested in protein folding, if you're interested in healthcare, if you're interested in the impact of a vaccine, if an impact of a new drug, it's very important that you collect the data that is relevant to that particular application. However, what we learned in the last year or so is that something interesting happens when we embed not only the data about the particular phenomenon that we're interested in, but also the texts that tackled questions, that described questions similar in a similar situation. So as an example, you're trying to understand the efficacy of a COVID-19 vaccine. You may want to actually ask questions about general vaccines. And part of the reason is that then ChatGPT pulls in from the literature things that you should worry about, what we call in statistics confounders. things that matter, things that maybe because of my age or because of my health, vaccine have a different impact than another person that doesn't have those situations. It pulls together some interesting information for you to worry about when you're actually designing that particular vaccine. So the embedding of actual data with text data becomes actually really important, and it facilitates what we refer to as federated learning or transfer learning.
So while Professor Munder focused on generative AI from the software front, allow me to focus a bit more on the infrastructure layer on the back end as well. So as AI has proliferated across almost every industry in the past years, it has proven to be a transformative force, drastically reshaping the way we run our business operations. The widespread adoption of AI has led to companies understanding the true importance of data, so organizations are now racing to collect, organize, and leverage their data for their AI endeavors. The surge in AI adoption has led to an explosion in data generation. Big data has become the lifeblood of all business operations, including AI training. However, with this wealth of data comes a formidable challenge. How do you distill this information into actionable insights? And the answer is to use extreme amounts of substantial processing power, which is through high-performance compute. Now, imagine it as a monumental jigsaw puzzle where each piece of data holds a piece of the bigger picture, an insight into what the answer is, essentially. To solve this puzzle and extract meaningful knowledge, we require immense amounts of high processing power. These engines must churn through mountains of data, performing complex calculations at speeds previously unimaginable. Yet here's where we face an essentially daunting hurdle. In the current landscape, the demand for AI infrastructure has outstripped the available supply. The scarcity of GPUs has exacerbated this challenge. To put it simply, the AI training process is akin to quenching an insatiable thirst for computational power. The combination of colossal data requirements and the current shortages in GPU presents a significant bottleneck that must be addressed to ensure the continued progress of AI.
I know there's a lot of passion from corporations and industries that let's go ahead and build our own large language model. It is not that easy. The first thing is it takes significant investment. So I put it here is that the public information for GPT-4 for each release, each training release, to take over 100 million. As the model and data continue to increase, this is possible that the compute cost will continue to increase. The second thing is it's actually quite hard to get expertise because if you want to hire a large language model expert, there are limited supply out there. I also have heard some of the leading companies mentioned in the previous slide failed a couple of times to create a larger model in the release. And that's also because the talent and then also because the know-how. So the last thing could be quite surprising because we know data is exploring, right? But the recent publication has demonstrated that we are in short of high quality data. What does it mean is that I think in early session we talked about in order to train good model, you need really good data, right? High quality data today, a new high quality data available for training today is supposedly to be dried out in the next few years. And even low quality data could be run out by 2040. So this is some of the coming from the latest publications. Okay, so let's say we're not going to build our own language model. Let's just use the existing one. So most well-known is kind of prompt engineering, the current large language models, as you see in the previous use cases. So, okay, so if your company, you want to use the existing one, what are the bottlenecks here or challenges here? The first one is high variable cost. So as you can see that GPT-4 is quite expensive, but GPT 3.4 is a lot cheaper, right? So that's why when you decided to use which model to use, it's become more and more important to build a system to evaluate the models at the real time. So for example, if you have a use case, but each time that user query that information, you may not need to use the most expensive model. You could just be using some difficult ones using GPT-4, and some are easier ones you can use GPT 3.5. So as a result, the model management, and we call it ML ops, machine learning ops, or AI ops, become increasingly important. Alignment challenges, I think a previous panel also touched on this a little bit, is that let's say if you're a public company and you're using a third party's API to generate a result, you want to make sure that you have visibility and also control of the alignment issues, which is known as hallucinations, means that the AI will generate something that's not true. And biases and fairness, safety, and ethical dilemmas.
And actually the fact that the region has, let's say, 3, 4, 5 years delay on, let's say, the US, it's actually a very good thing because we can see the mistakes that the others are doing and avoid them. The problem with this is that excessive regulation is definitely not the answer because it kills innovation. You know, it's very easy to say you don't have the right to do anything. Okay, so we stop innovating, we start using AI, etc. For me, the real solution is what we call responsible AI. So, you know, there are so many risks in organizations that the C-level needs to take care of it. And how? There are some very easy non-regret moves. The first one is, you know, the top people, the CEO, and several of our clients have done already this. They need to show real and visible support for responsible AI. It's not just a topic in the corner. It's something that can really damage your company, so it's important. Then you need to have a senior and respected leader accountable for that. You need to develop principles, policies, and tools. That's a very important point because, you know, principles, there are more than 100 academia organizations, international institutions, universities have developed principles of responsible AI. The problem is that you cannot do much about principles. The principles need to be transferred into policies, and the policies need to be transferred into tools. Otherwise, it's just, you know, good intentions. And of course, you need to integrate all this into the governance processes of your company.
The bad news is, if we carry on making AIs, if we carry on developing AIs at the rate we're doing, we will eventually create AIs which have the capability to do pretty much everything that we do for money. Cheaper, better, and faster. And at that point, yeah, you won't have a job, none of us will have a job. Now, the reason why that bit of bad news is actually probably good news is that a world in which machines do all the jobs should be a world in which humans do whatever we want to do. We play, we explore, we learn, we travel, we socialize. There are a few problems. We have to figure out how to distribute resources so everybody can have a great standard of living, and we ought to be thinking about that a great deal more than we are. But yes, at some point, technological unemployment will happen, assuming AIs continue to develop, but it should be a good news story. But the second bit of good news is this is all quite a long way into the future, and by quite a long way into the future, I mean at least 3 months, probably several decades, but who knows? The rate things are going, and we know we're on an exponential growth curve, timelines are contracting. But for our practical purposes today, there's going to be lots of jobs for humans for the foreseeable future. Will we be able to predict which jobs will be automated first? Because there will be a lot of automation in the coming decades, and we're all going to have to get better at changing jobs, changing careers, changing industries more and more frequently. And I think actually the bottom line is we can't predict what order jobs will get automated in, what order professions will get automated in. And we've had an object lesson in that this year. Until last year, we all thought that it would be low-end, blue-collar, repetitive jobs that would be automated first. And this year we've learned that actually, hey, it's junior accountants and illustrators and creative people. So we can't predict the order it's going to happen in. We can see the broad outlines, but not the details.
The ethics and the responsibility, particularly in the healthcare arena, we have to hold ourselves to the highest and strictest bar when it comes to that, and understanding, and the rules and regulations as they're written now certainly have human intervention at nearly every level and every step along the way, as they should. And as we go forward, we'll have to continue to revise those where that is needed and where that is prudent, given that we can already, that we're already moving into the ability to read radiology scans lightning fast, huge amounts of volume. The computers, the bots can do it just as well as kind of a let's call it a junior level doctor, perhaps not a specialist, but they still need to look at those and then sign off on them. There's still some of that accountability that needs to be there. Honestly, I don't have all the answers for what that's going to look like and be. We'll have to experiment upon that, just like we do experiment on everything else when it comes to technology and change, but I think we'll learn our way in there.
In pharma space, you cannot really verify an answer, an output by the model quickly. You cannot say that the structure, the molecule that the model came up with is good, it's sensible, we can put it into humans. You have to do thorough testing, validation, experimental validation that can take months or years. So in contrast to ChatGPT, it is a very time-consuming process to validate the output in pharma space. That's why we started very early on. Back in 2015, we developed our first model. Back then, generative was not popular, and many people are skeptical about the whole field. But it gave us enough time to validate the technology and put up some new case studies and validate our engine thoroughly. So I think going forward, we have intrinsic challenges in the biology of a disease. So it's hard to develop a medicine. Biology is hard. AI helps with that. But those organizational challenges and roadblocks you mentioned, that of course, so you have to be conscious of your workforce, because generative AI essentially rearranges the whole kind of sphere of responsibilities within an organization. So you have to work with your HR, and we think of it as a 10-year horizon. So we need to have a workforce which will be effective in a 10-year horizon. So 10 years from now, we will still be working in that position, and will bring in value. Will be bringing value to the company. In the case where it's different, we have to work with HR to adjust trajectories for those people. Many roadblocks in terms of safety. Previous discussion was lies around safety and ethics of AI. In our space, it's not too big of a problem because we have very strict guardrails of validation. Whatever idea AI comes up with, we need to validate experimentally, make sure it is safe, it is efficacious, and only then we can, put it in humans.
Today I would like to share with you a project on the use of artificial intelligence in early warning system. In my role as a minister, in my previous role as an Italian Minister of Innovation and Digitalization, unfortunately during the COVID-19 pandemic, and then in my role as the advisor of innovation and digitalization for the Minister of Foreign Affairs during the war between the beginning of the war between Russia and Ukraine. I felt a sense of urgency to define a better approach inside the government to detect a dangerous situation that could have been identified if the information, the availability of information that we had was better analyzed. So for this reason, I proposed the introduction of artificial intelligence and of early warning system as a tool to improve country abilities to detect unrest and unexpected situation, identify the right causes and act before a conflict erupts. When my appointment ended in my capacity as a professor inside the university, I continued to pursue my project, and I set up a team, a dedicated team, and I developed an AI early warning transformer system. So the aim of this project is to provide government, diplomats, international organizations, and AI early warning system to identify conflicts and their causes before they occur. Our system identifies patterns and anomalies in the data that may indicate the likelihood of conflict by providing a probability that a given day will antecedent an arrest event. Even if predicting human behavior is a particularly difficult task, the use of AI in early warning system has been improved after the Rwanda genocide and can be used for building a policy-making tool that is more effective and efficient in international strategy plan, in action and in a contingency plan. It's also useful to avoid bias and personal experience that sometimes bring diplomats to take not the right decision, and also to promoting a multidisciplinary approach.
So I think cutting-edge compute is essentially the foundational component of generative AI. Group 42 has, been a proponent of AI for many years and has been very strong in the compute area. We've seen Group 42 Cloud grow from, a kind of basic cloud platform to also support high-performance compute. We recently, obviously, released JACE, and that was trained on a specific AI cloud. That was a cloud that was co-developed between Cerebras Systems and Group 42. And it's the largest AI training platform in the world at 4 exaflops, 54 million cores across 64 nodes. So it's a huge and amazing feat of engineering and really supports our version of generative AI and JACE and the training of other models that we're kind of ongoing right now. So I think that it's foundational, 100%. I think what we have achieved with Cerebras is world leading. And what we've said before is this is only the beginning with Cerebras Systems. We are going to develop up to 36 exaflops of compute across 9 locations. So we're going to have 9 supercomputers, and we've announced that already. Of course, there's going to be more to come. We're not just working with one group, we're working with many. And there'll be more news to come in this area, but for sure, Cerebras Systems has been foundational and fundamental to the success of building JACE.
One of the ironic things with large language models is, we've all played around with ChatGPT, for example. For English, you can collect much larger amounts of data than you can for other languages. Arabic, 5th largest language in the world, 500 million speakers, and yet it's hard to get a volume of data that you need proportionate to the size of models we want to train to get the sorts of capabilities that we expect in terms of modern large language models. So step 1 is get the data and realize there are very real upper bounds in terms of the amount of open access, high quality Arabic data that you can get access to. So what do you do? So we spent a lot of time experimenting with trying to get more Arabic data and cleaning the data, but also mixing Arabic and English and to a lesser degree code data to see whether we could get any cross-lingual transfer to actually boost the performance of the Arabic through the language mixing, finding that indeed we could. So there's actually more English training data than there is Arabic training data. There's a lot of a complex secret sauce in terms of exactly how you train the model to get the mutual benefit between the two languages. As Andy was alluding to, the Cerebras platform was absolutely the backbone of the whole effort in terms of being able to run the high throughput experiments that are needed to arrive at that secret sauce. There's a lot of trial and error, scientifically informed trial and error, but ultimately trial and error in modern day AI. If you don't have the compute to do that trial and error, you can't achieve the sorts of successes that people are after.